Mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again. New NBA Plus Stuff podcast in the description. Talked about some of the Raptors' young guys, OG Anunoby and them, as well as a couple of movies. Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, how I felt about them. Now I gotta talk about how I feel about some of the more least valuable players in the NBA. Now as far as why you're seeing LeBron James, that's because I just needed something for a little intro here. So I'm going with least valuable here instead of worst players because I'd rather look at guys who are on teams that are either good or at least not horrible, because then I think it's a little more interesting, because we can see the guys who might be the reason why their team that's kind of on the bubble for the playoffs or whatever is perhaps a couple of games worse than they really could be. Whereas if a team is really bad, it's kind of difficult to blame it all on one guy. We're going to start with Jay Crowder. The Cavaliers hoped that he could hit three-pointers this season. He's not hitting threes almost at all. And offensively, Crowder's just fallen off a cliff. Last season for the Celtics, he managed to be a pretty decent offensive guy. Not happening this year. And then defensively, he's not what Cleveland hoped he would be either. Because you would hope that he could be a small forward / power forward who can be really strong and physical and defend a whole lot of positions. And Crowder has just been flat out bad for Cleveland. His net rating on the season is minus 2.4. When he is not in the game, the Cavaliers are at nearly a positive 4 net rating. And it sucks a lot because of what we believed that Crowder could be for them, because they've kind of been needing what Crowder has been in the past, which is the multi-position defender who can hopefully just give them a chance against the Warriors, because the Celtics have been maybe the one team, at least in the regular seasons over the past couple of seasons, where they've actually given Golden State some trouble. And I know Crowder wasn't playing in one of those games, the one that they beat him in Golden State, but he was playing in some of the other ones, and he's the type of defender that you need against them, and so far it's been pretty rough. Now, could he bounce back? Yeah, I think it's possible if he gets in better shape and just the ball starts going in. Now, the ball's not going in pretty much at all for Matthew Dellavedova, as he's shooting below 40% on the season, and Dellavedova is one of the least intimidating scorers in the NBA. He only shoots about 4 times a game. His three-pointers aren't terrible. He shoots 35%, but he only takes 2 threes a game. I don't think it's enough to warrant the defense actually respecting him from out there. He's pretty much a pass-first kind of guy, and I think you can defend him for the pass a lot. A big problem that he had with Cleveland was he wanted to throw alley-oops to Tristan Thompson all day long the moment he got around the screen. But he's also been kind of a turnover machine. His turnover percentage is over 20%. And given just how little he has as a responsibility offensively, that's pretty alarming that nearly 1/4 of his possessions end in a turnover. And then we go to his defense, because that's a reputation he's gained. I mean, Milwaukee's defense falls apart once Dellavedova's in the game. When he's not in there, their defense is 106 per 100 possessions. When he's in there, it's 112. And it's not like the guys he's playing with are slouches on defense. The majority of his minutes are spent playing with Chris Middleton as well as Giannis. So, what's Dellavedova giving you? He's turning the ball over a lot. He's not playing defense. So there you go for Milwaukee. Next, we got to get to Emmanuel Mudiay, who, I'll give him this much. His three-pointer's gotten kind of okay. He's shooting 40%. Now, he only takes about 2 a game. So, it's not like eye-popping. But still, progress is progress. Give him credit. Pretty much everywhere else on the floor, Mudiay still can't make anything in. Whether it's from the mid-range, potentially a pull-up jumper out of a pick and roll if you want to go under the screen on him. He's not making anybody pay for that sort of thing. His turnovers are up. His percentage is nearly up to 20% a game. So with Mudiay, it's just like, what is he really doing for himself as a point guard? He hasn't really picked any one area and gotten great at it. Like, as a playmaker, he's not doing much. He's not some intimidating force going to the basket, drawing a lot of fouls and putting the opposing team in foul trouble. I mean, he's not a lights-out shooter, although that seems to be, if he's going to become something, it might be through that avenue. Mudiay is one of those guys where I feel like he really could have benefited from going to college for like all 4 years. I mean, for every Kevin Garnett who just comes right out of high school and kills it, there's always a couple of Emmanuel Mudiays. Now, I think he's got potential, and I think he could make an NBA career for himself, but as of right now, it's rough, you know? Next, we get to Ricky Rubio, who I disagree with when I put him on last season. I don't think he should have been there last season, because he was kind of the classic Rubio where, sure, he wasn't shooting well, but he still made the team better because of his playmaking and all that. This season, Rubio is almost the same player in a lot of ways, and in terms of his usage rate, actually his usage rate's a little higher. His turnover percentage is about the same as it's always been. His percentages are still rough. I mean, whenever he can have plays like this one where he just gets inside and finishes on a layup, that's great, but a lot of the time teams go under him on screens, so these are a dime a dozen. But the real problem is that his playmaking has just been flat out worse. He's under 5 assists a game. His assist percentage is around 25, which is a career low. It's been as high as basically 40% almost his entire career. So we're still getting the inefficiency. We're still getting basically everything except for what made Rubio good in the first place, and Utah has been worse with him in the game, which has always been the opposite with Rubio. He was always kind of a weird anomaly where it wasn't always the prettiest thing, but he made his teams better. He's not making Utah better this season. Now, all these guys do not compete with the onslaught that is coming off the bench for the Charlotte Hornets in the name of Michael Carter-Williams. And this is actually the shortest bit because I don't know. MCW flat out sucks, and it's basically from everywhere. He was never a three-point shooter, so that's still a thing. Similar to Mudiay, he can't finish from anywhere on the floor. I mean anywhere. Even at the basket, it's not going in. As he's shooting 48% at the rim, my goodness. His turnover percentage is higher than his assist percentage, and overall, it's pretty rough for Michael Carter-Williams. The Hornets could really use some more punch off the bench. Anyway, I'm done. New podcast in the description. Raptors young guys, a whole bunch of Oscar-worthy movies, or at least I agree with that for 2 of them. One of them, I do not agree with that at all, but Oscar potential movies, I should say. Anyway, I'm done.